Welcome back, everyone. Before we dive in, make sure you drop your thoughts and the lessons you took from this story in the comments. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Let's get into it. When my husband ran off with my sister, he left me penniless and mocked me for clinging to our dying son. For 4 years, they paraded their perfect life while I scrubbed floors to survive. 15 years later, they sneered, asking if the boy had died, until he walked in tall and unbroken. Their faces, pure defeat. Still scrubbing floors, Denise. Tiffany's voice cut through the grocery store 15 years after she had stolen my husband. She stood there examining organic tomatoes while I held my last $20. Calvin beside her with his success gut and designer clothes. We heard Jordan died years ago. Such a tragedy. That was when my 6'3" son walked through the automatic doors in his Georgetown medical sweatshirt. Let me tell you how we got there. How my sister and husband built their happiness on the foundation of a child's suffering. It started 3 years before they left. On an ordinary Tuesday, when Tiffany's heels clicked across our worn linoleum floor, I was making spaghetti, Jordan's favorite, steam fogging the kitchen windows while Calvin wrestled with the sink pipes underneath. My sister swept in without knocking. She never knocked anymore. Designer purse hitting our scratched counter as she launched into another breakup story. Gerald was a narcissist, she declared, though Gerald had seemed nice enough when he had paid for our dinner last month. Thank God I have family. Real family. She touched Calvin's shoulder as he emerged from under the sink, her hand lingering. You are so good with your hands, Calvin. Denise is lucky. The way she said my name like it was an afterthought. The way Calvin's ears turned red. I should have known then. 2 weeks later, a man in a white coat delivered the diagnosis that would change everything. The office smelled like disinfectant and that particular brand of dread that clings to medical buildings. Jordan sat on the examination table, legs swinging, 7 years old and oblivious, while the doctor explained about white blood cells and treatment protocols. It was Tiffany who sobbed, loud, theatrical sobs that made the nurse bring tissues. She clutched Jordan against her chest, mascara running in perfect streams. My precious nephew, she wailed. I will do anything. Anything. Calvin sat frozen beside me, his hand cold in mine. I thought he was in shock. Looking back, maybe he was calculating how long he had to pretend to care. Tiffany inserted herself into our medical routine with surgical precision. She volunteered to drive Jordan to appointments while I worked. She researched special organic diets that cost 3 times our grocery budget and insisted they were essential, guilt-tripping me when I hesitated. She picked up prescriptions, organized medications into color-coded containers, and became the expert on Jordan's condition while I became the absent mother working doubles to pay for it all. You need to rest, she said, shooing me out of my own kitchen. I have Jordan's dinner. It is a special recipe I found online. It costs a fortune, but he is worth it. Right. Worth it, because the fortune was ours to lose. Calvin started missing bedtime. First once a week. Construction emergencies, he said. Then 3 times. Then I was reading Harry Potter alone to Jordan while Calvin's truck stayed gone until midnight. His phone lived face down on the nightstand. He showered the second he came home. When I asked about the new cologne, he said a client gave it to him. Tiffany wore the same scent. I found him in the garage one night, shoulders shaking. For a moment, my heart softened. The stress was getting to him, too. Our son was sick. Our marriage was straining. But when he turned, his tears looked practiced, like he had been rehearsing in the rearview mirror. I cannot lose him, Dee, he said, using the nickname he had not called me in years. Sometimes I think about running away from all this. We do not run, I told him. We fight for Jordan. He nodded, pulled me close, and his shirt smelled like Tiffany's perfume and something else. Guilt, maybe, or decision already made. The charity fundraiser was Tiffany's masterpiece. She organized everything at St. Catherine's, our church, the one where Calvin and I had married 8 years earlier. She printed flyers with Jordan's school picture, the one where he was smiling despite the bruises that mysteriously appeared whenever she watched him. Help Jordan fight, the poster said. Every dollar counts. The entire community came. Our neighbors, Calvin's construction crew, my coworkers, who could barely afford gasoline, but still dropped 20s in the donation box. Tiffany stood at the podium in a dress that cost more than our monthly rent, dabbing her eyes with precision. Family means everything, she said, her voice carrying across the fellowship hall. When Denise asked me to help, I had not asked. I knew I had to step up. Jordan is like my own son. Her hand found Calvin's shoulder. We all have to sacrifice for the ones we love. The photographer captured them standing together, Calvin's arm around Tiffany's waist, while I was in the bathroom helping Jordan throw up the special smoothie she had made him. $12,000 raised that night. I thought it would save us. I did not know Tiffany was already siphoning it into an account I would never see. 3 months before they left, I worked the night shift at a hospital in Cincinnati, mopping surgical floors while Jordan slept in the break room. Tiffany insisted on preparing his weekly medications, special compounds from a pharmacy 2 towns over. Calvin had started sleeping in the spare room, claiming my schedule disturbed his sleep. Our house felt like 3 separate lives intersecting at doorways, nothing more. Mrs. Whitaker from next door would later tell me she had seen Calvin's truck at the Hampton Inn multiple times, always afternoons when I was working and Jordan was at school. Tiffany's car in the same lot, but Mrs. Whitaker thought it was for work. Calvin did construction estimates after all. Tiffany was probably helping with the business side of things. The business side, what they were calling it. Jordan got sicker whenever Tiffany watched him. I noticed the pattern but blamed coincidence, stress, bad luck. The vitamins she brought came in prescription bottles with typed labels. Official looking. The diet she supervised cost hundreds we did not have. Calvin said we would manage. He would take extra jobs. Tiffany offered to loan us money, then acted hurt when I hesitated. I am trying to help, she said, tears perfectly timed. Do you not trust family? Family, the word she wielded like a weapon while she poisoned my son and planned her escape with my husband. While she counted the charity money and calculated how long to keep Jordan sick enough for sympathy, but well enough to abandon. The last Sunday before they left, we went to church together. All 4 of us like a mockery of the family we had never really been. Jordan dozed against my shoulder during the sermon about faithfulness. Calvin checked his phone 6 times. Tiffany sang the hymns too loudly, her voice cracking on Amazing Grace, while she held the hymnal between her and Calvin, their fingers touching on the spine. I should have seen it all. Monday morning, 6:17 a.m., 3 days after that church service, my key stuck in the lock like always, and I had to jiggle it twice before the door opened. The apartment felt wrong immediately. Too quiet, but not the peaceful quiet of everyone sleeping. Hollow, like walking into an abandoned theater. Calvin's work boots were not by the door. Tiffany's purse was not on the counter where she had taken to leaving it during her overnight help sessions. The coffee maker was cold, unprogrammed when Calvin always set it for 5:45. Jordan was still in his bed, tangled in his dinosaur sheets, breathing steady. Relief flooded me so hard my knees buckled. Whatever else was wrong, Jordan was here safe. But his nightstand looked different. The medicine organizer Tiffany had bought was gone, along with the special water bottles she insisted he use. The note waited on the kitchen table held down by Calvin's wedding ring. Tiffany's handwriting, the same loops and curves that had signed my birthday cards for 32 years. Jordan's illness is destroying everyone. We deserve happiness too. Calvin and I have found something real. We cannot watch him deteriorate anymore. It is too painful. The apartment is paid through the month. His medications are in the cabinet. We are sorry, but we need to save ourselves. Do not try to find us. Both their signatures at the bottom. Calvin's looked rushed. Tiffany's was perfect, like she had practiced. I read it 4 times before my brain accepted the words. Then Jordan's voice broke through. Mommy. He stood in the hallway, dragging his stuffed T-Rex, hair sticking up in 8 directions. Where is Daddy's truck? He had to go to work early, baby. But his lunch is still in the refrigerator. And he took the game console. His voice cracked. The game console is not for work. That was when I saw what else was missing. The flat-screen television, Calvin's golf clubs, the good laptop, Tiffany's jewelry box she kept in our bedroom for safekeeping. They had loaded up like thieves while their sick nephew slept down the hall. Why did Aunt Tiffany take her medicine box? Jordan asked. She said I needed it every day. He started coughing, that wet sound that had haunted our nights for months. But this time it sounded different, forced, like he was making himself cough because that was what sick children did. I pulled him against me and he felt so small. All sharp shoulder blades and thin arms. Did Aunt Tiffany say goodbye to you? No, but I heard them last night carrying stuff. Daddy dropped something and said a bad word. He pressed his face into my stomach. Are they coming back? I do not know, baby. Did I do something wrong? I took all the medicine, even the ones that made my stomach hurt. My vision blurred. 7 years old, and he thought their abandonment was his fault. That somehow his illness, the very thing they had orchestrated, had driven them away. You did nothing wrong. Nothing. Sometimes adults make selfish choices. We sat on the couch. Jordan curled into me like he was trying to disappear. I should have been making breakfast, getting him ready for school, checking his temperature. Instead, I held him while the morning light exposed everything they had taken. The empty spaces where pictures had hung. Calvin had taken the ones of himself, but left our wedding photo, his face scratched out with something sharp. I am hungry, Jordan finally said. Can I have regular cereal? Not the special one Aunt Tiffany makes. You can have whatever you want. He chose the marshmallow cereal Tiffany had banned, saying the sugar would interfere with his treatments. He ate 2 bowls while I watched, memorizing his face. The way his eyes were not as sunken as yesterday. When he smiled, milk dripping down his chin, he looked like a normal child, not the dying child Tiffany had crafted. The bank was my next stop. Jordan waited in the car with his dinosaur while I stood at the automated teller machine, certain the machine was broken. $17. That was all that remained of our savings, our checking, everything. The emergency fund we had built over 5 years gone. Jordan's college account my mother had started with $1,000 before breast cancer took her, emptied. The receipt printed out like a verdict. Withdrawals starting 3 weeks ago. 500 here. 800 there. The final cleaning yesterday while I worked and Jordan slept. Even the quarters in his piggy bank would be more than what they left us. The teller inside pulled up our history. Joint accounts, she explained apologetically. Calvin had every right. The credit cards were maxed out too. Charges at hotels, restaurants, a jewelry store. They had been spending for weeks while I counted pennies for Jordan's medicine. Can you put a hold on anything? I asked. I am sorry, ma'am. There is nothing left to hold. Back home, Jordan had fallen asleep in the car. I carried him inside, all 42 pounds of him, his fever already climbing again, but different this time. Like his body was confused, trying to be sick because that was what it knew. Mrs. Whitaker knocked while I was making soup from a can. She stood at our door with her own pot of something homemade, her face creased with concern and barely contained gossip. I saw them moving, she said, pushing inside, at 4 a.m. Thought it was strange, moving day. Well, Calvin's truck but loaded up like a move. She set her pot on my stove, eyes scanning our emptied living room. Denise, honey, I need to tell you something. My stomach dropped. What? I have seen them at the Hampton Inn off Route 9 multiple times these past weeks. Middle of the day when you were working. He touched my hand. Tiffany has been staying there. Saw her key card myself when she dropped it at the mailboxes. Room 237. Been charging it to your Southwest credit card. How long? 6 weeks, maybe more. I hoped I was wrong. Thought maybe she needed space from her latest breakup. Mrs. Whitaker's voice dropped. But Calvin's truck was there too. Every Tuesday and Thursday, like clockwork. Tuesdays and Thursdays. Tiffany's special pharmacy run days for Jordan's medications. The days she insisted I work doubles to cover the cost. Jordan whimpered from his bedroom, calling for water. His special water bottles were gone, so I used a regular glass. He drank slowly, carefully, like Tiffany had trained him to do. Mom, are we going to be okay without them? I looked at his pale face, the dark circles Tiffany had literally fed him, the trust still somehow alive in his eyes despite everything. We are going to be better, I promised, though I had $17, no job security, and a sick child who might not even be sick. That promise to Jordan hung between us for 3 days while I scrambled to keep us afloat. Then Thursday came, and with it the phone call from Jefferson Elementary that changed everything. Ms. Walker, Jordan collapsed in physical education. The ambulance is taking him to Cincinnati General. I abandoned my mop bucket in the middle of the bank's marble floor. My supervisor yelled about docked pay as I ran. The taxi cost $8 I could not spare, leaving me with $9 to my name. Jordan was conscious when I arrived, pale and confused in the pediatric ward, an intravenous drip flowing into his thin arm. Just a little dizzy spell, the emergency physician said, barely looking up from his tablet. Probably his leukemia. Follow up with his oncologist. But we did not have an oncologist anymore. The specialist Tiffany had found could not see us without insurance, and Calvin had canceled our policy the day he left. That was when she appeared. Dr. Patricia Hawkins walked past our curtained area, then stopped, backed up, and stared at Jordan like she had seen a ghost. She was older, maybe 60, with sharp eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. That child does not have leukemia, she said quietly, stepping inside. Excuse me, I said, my protective instincts flaring. His medical records, may I? She gestured toward Jordan, and something in her voice made me nod. She examined him gently, his eyes, his fingernails, the bruising on his arms. She pressed carefully on his stomach, checked his lymph nodes, studied his skin tone under the harsh hospital lights. Who diagnosed him? A Dr. Langston 2 years ago. And who has been managing his treatment? My sister. I stopped, the words turning sour in my mouth. Dr. Hawkins pulled the curtain fully closed. I run the free clinic on Vine Street. Bring him tomorrow night after we close. 9 o'clock. Bring every medication, every bottle, every record you have. Why? She looked at Jordan, then back at me. Because that child is being poisoned, and I think you know it. The next night, I sat in her locked clinic while she spread papers across her desk like evidence in a crime scene. Jordan was in the examination room with a nurse, eating his first real meal in days. Chicken nuggets without Tiffany's special sauce. These blood tests from Dr. Langston, she began, adjusting her glasses. They are fabricated. The letterhead is wrong. The medical terminology is nonsensical. And this signature, Dr. Langston retired 4 years ago. He has been in Florida since before Jordan was supposedly diagnosed. The room spun, but we went to his office. What office? The building at that address has been a shopping complex for 5 years. My mind raced backward. Tiffany had driven us. Tiffany had walked us inside. A small office, oddly empty. Just one man in a white coat who looked at Jordan for maybe 10 minutes before delivering his death sentence. Cash only. Tiffany had handled it, saying insurance would reimburse us later. These supplements, Dr. Hawkins continued, holding up the bottles I had brought. 3 of them are from websites that sell alternative medicine. They contain heavy metals. Not enough to kill quickly, but enough to cause every symptom of childhood leukemia. Fatigue, bruising, weakness, pallor. She showed me printouts from medical journals matching Jordan's symptoms to heavy metal poisoning, not cancer. This one, she held up a white bottle, contains thallium, rat poison, essentially in minute doses. This green one has arsenic compounds, just enough to keep him sick. I made it to the bathroom before vomiting. My body rejected the truth as violently as it wanted to reject the last 18 months. My sister had poisoned my child methodically, deliberately, while smiling at me over morning coffee. When I returned, Dr. Hawkins had created a timeline on her whiteboard. Jordan's worst days aligned perfectly with Tiffany's pharmacy runs. His improvements came during her supposed spa weekends. The pattern was undeniable, mathematical in its cruelty. We need to flush his system, she said. Stop all medications immediately. I will treat him here off the books. If we report this now without proof of who did it, they will take Jordan away from you. But Tiffany is gone. We need documentation first. I will run real blood work every 3 days. Document his recovery. In 2 weeks, you will not recognize him. She was right. 10 days without Tiffany's poison, and Jordan's transformation was miraculous. His skin went from gray to pink. He ate without vomiting. He ran in the apartment without gasping. His bruises faded. The dark circles disappeared. He gained 4 pounds in 2 weeks. Mom, I feel weird, he told me one morning. Weird how? Not tired. Is that normal? My 7-year-old son had to ask if feeling healthy was normal. That was what they had done to him. Dr. Hawkins documented everything meticulously. Blood work showing declining toxin levels, photographs of his recovery, a detailed timeline of his poisoning. She risked her license taking samples to an independent laboratory, paying from her own pocket. 18 months of systematic poisoning, she said during our 4th visit. They wanted him sick enough for sympathy and donations, but not so sick he would need real hospitalization where real physicians might notice. The fundraiser, I whispered. $12,000. Blood money, literally. 3 weeks into Jordan's recovery, I was cleaning offices downtown when Felicia from payroll found me in the break room. Her phone extended like a weapon. Denise, you need to see this. The social media post was dated 6 months after Calvin and Tiffany vanished. A memorial page for Jordan Walker, beloved son, taken too soon after his brave battle with leukemia. Photos of him from when he was sickest, pale and hollow-eyed. Tiffany standing at a podium in a black dress. Calvin beside her, both crying perfectly staged tears. The comments destroyed me. Hundreds of people offering condolences, sharing memories of the sweet sick boy, donating to their new charity, Jordan's wings, supporting families through childhood cancer. They killed him off, Felicia said gently. In everyone's mind, your son is dead. I scrolled through post after post. Memorial trees planted, scholarships in his name. A 5-kilometer run with his picture on every shirt. Calvin and Tiffany had built their new life on the foundation of Jordan's fictional death, profiting from a grief that was not even real. But he is alive, Felicia said. That is what matters. Dr. Hawkins helped me print everything. The posts, the charity registration, the donation pages. Evidence of a crime so elaborate, I still could not fully grasp it. They had poisoned a child, faked his death, and profited from both. What do I do? I asked her. You survive, she said. You raise that healthy boy. And when the time is right, the truth has a way of surfacing. That night, Jordan drew a picture of himself as a superhero, strong and tall, cape flying. This is me when I grow up, he announced. You are already my hero, I told him. Why? Because you survived something impossible. He was still clutching that superhero drawing when the eviction notice arrived 2 days before Christmas. The paper trembled in my hand while Jordan hung his handmade ornaments on our Charlie Brown tree, a scraggly thing rescued from behind a neighborhood diner. 3 months behind, the notice said. Final warning. I had been working 3 jobs, nights at the hospital, mornings at the bank, weekends at a dental office. But it was not enough. Not with medical bills still coming from Jordan's fake treatments, the maxed credit cards Calvin had left us with, and groceries that cost more each week. What is that, Mom? Jordan asked, noticing my face. Just paperwork, baby. Mr. Dupree's office smelled like cigars and old aftershave. He sat behind his desk, massive hands folded, while Jordan and I stood like defendants awaiting verdict. Jordan was 10 now, 3 years since they had left, but still small for his age. The poisoning had stunted his growth, Dr. Hawkins said. You owe me $3,000, Mr. Dupree stated. I know. I can pay $500 now, and you said that last month. Jordan stepped forward. Please do not make us leave. Mom works really hard. Mr. Dupree looked at Jordan, really looked. He saw the second-hand clothes, the backpack held together with duct tape, the way he stood protective beside me like a tiny bodyguard. You go to Jefferson Elementary? Yes, sir. My grandson goes there. Anthony Dupree. Jordan brightened. Anthony is nice. He shares his lunch sometimes. Something shifted in the old man's face. You are the child Anthony says does not have lunch. My cheeks burned. I pack him lunch. Crackers are not lunch, Mr. Dupree interrupted. He studied us for a long moment. I own 7 buildings in this area. They need cleaning. The professional service wants $8,000 a month. You do it for rent plus $2,000. Deal? Yes. Yes, absolutely. Start tomorrow. Bring the boy if you need to. And that was how I became the queen of toilets. 7 buildings, 42 bathrooms, countless floors to mop. Jordan would sit in supply closets doing homework, reading by the light of his phone that barely held a charge. Sometimes I found him asleep on a pile of clean towels, his math book still open. By February, Jordan had taken over our household completely. He figured out our scheduling chaos and adapted like a tiny general managing a war. Mom, you have bank at 6 o'clock, hospital at 3 o'clock, sleep from 9 to 2, he would recite while making scrambled eggs. He learned to cook from instructional videos on the library computer. Nothing fancy, but enough to keep us fed. Pasta with butter. Grilled cheese that only stuck to the pan half the time. You should be playing video games, I told him one morning, watching him pack our lunches. This is better, he said simply. We are a team. When his teacher called asking about his father for a Veterans Day project, Jordan answered without hesitation. He died in Afghanistan. A hero. The lie came so naturally I almost believed it myself. It was easier than explaining that his father was living 40 minutes away with my sister, pretending Jordan was dead. Some nights, I came home to find Jordan had reorganized our tiny space, trying to make it feel bigger. He moved the couch to catch more light, hung sheets to create a bedroom area, labeled everything in the kitchen so I could find it half asleep. We do not need them, Mom, he would say when he caught me crying into my coffee at 4 a.m. We have each other. Our neighbors downstairs, the Carters, became our unexpected lifeline. Mrs. Carter started her kindness campaign in March. Mistaken, orders from their small cafe appeared at our door 3 times a week. Always warm. Always Jordan's favorites. Always with extra portions. I did not order this, I would say. Mistake already made. she insisted gently. Cannot waste food. Their daughter, Tiana, a high school senior, tutored Jordan in mathematics. Mr. Carter fixed our perpetually leaking sink, our broken window lock, the door that would not close right. I should pay you, I offered. Mrs. Carter waved me off. Family helps family. Real family. Not the blood kind that poisons children. Jordan thrived in this makeshift family. Tiana taught him algebra and study habits. Mr. Carter showed him basic repairs, letting him hold the flashlight and pretend to help. Mrs. Carter fed him until his cheeks filled out. Mom, are we poor? Jordan asked one night, both of us on the couch that doubled as my bed. Financially, yes, but not the other kind. What other kind? The kind where nobody loves you. I pulled him closer. No, baby, we are rich in that. That conversation happened on a Tuesday. By Thursday, Jordan had transformed our tiny apartment into a science lab, and I knew we had turned a corner neither of us had seen coming. Mom, remember how Aunt Tiffany used to give me those vitamins? He was 13 now, his growth spurt finally hitting, his voice cracking between words. I want to understand what she did. He had salvaged an old microscope from Jefferson Elementary's equipment purge and set it up on our kitchen counter between the hot plate and the toaster that only worked if you held the lever down. Library books about toxicology towered beside it, tagged with colored sticky notes he peeled and reused until they barely stuck. For school, I asked. For the science fair, and for me. 3 months he worked on that project. Every night after I collapsed from my cleaning rounds, I found him hunched over data sheets, comparing chemical compounds, creating charts that tracked his own symptoms against known poisoning patterns. He titled it, When Medicine Becomes Weapon, Detecting Fabricated Illness in Pediatric Patients. You cannot mention Tiffany or Calvin, I warned. I will not, he promised. Mr. Ellison, his science teacher, stayed after school helping Jordan refine his hypothesis, teaching him to cite sources properly, never asking why a 13-year-old knew so much about medical fraud. The night before the state fair, Jordan practiced his presentation for me and the Carters. He stood straight, spoke clearly. His anger had transformed into academic precision. When he reached the slide showing how certain compounds could mimic leukemia symptoms, Mrs. Carter gripped my hand so tight it hurt. He won. Not just his category, he won the whole thing. Grand champion. A professor from Ohio State pulled me aside afterward. Your son's research is graduate level. Has he experienced medical trauma personally? Something like that. She nodded knowingly. The best scientists often come from pain. He is going places. Jordan framed that certificate and hung it where our family photo used to be, the one Calvin had scratched his face from. This is better, he said. This shows who we really are. 2 weeks later, I was cleaning the office of Brennan Builds. Calvin's company had moved into a downtown building of glass and chrome, trying to look bigger than it was. I cleaned there on Tuesday nights, usually alone except for security. But this Tuesday, someone had left an office unlocked. Calvin's partner, Thomas Reed. Papers covered his desk, and my eye caught Jordan's name. I should not have looked, but I did. Contract proposals, bids for city projects, state construction, private developments, and in every single one, a section about community involvement that told the story of Calvin's tragic loss, his son Jordan, dead from leukemia. I started photocopying page after page, proposal after proposal. Calvin had built his success on Jordan's fictional grave. The security guard found me an hour later, arms full of copies. You are not supposed to be in there, he said. I know. I am sorry. I thought I saw a mouse. He looked at the papers, then at me. Recognition flickered. You are Jordan's mom, the kid who won the science fair. My daughter goes to Jefferson. I nodded, unable to speak. He glanced at the stack again. Mice are terrible this time of year, he said slowly. Better take those papers outside to check for droppings. Would not want them back in the office if they are contaminated. He walked away, and I understood. The whole city knew our story, even if they did not know the details. At home, I spread the contracts across our floor. Dates, amounts, promises to donate percentages that never materialized. Dr. Hawkins had been right. Evidence mattered. The file grew thicker each week as I found more documents accidentally left in trash bins or recycling. Felicia started forwarding me Tiffany's social media posts. I could not look at them myself. She had blocked me everywhere. But Felicia screenshot everything. Tiffany posed with twin boys, perhaps 4 years old, in front of a house that screamed suburban wealth. Blessed with these miracles after so much loss, the caption read. Teaching them about their angel cousin, Jordan, who watches over them. She is using him even dead, Felicia muttered. I noticed something else. Calvin was rarely in recent photos. Tiffany's wine glass appeared in every image, sometimes multiple glasses in one photo session. Comments were turned off after someone wrote, "Did not Jordan's mother say he was alive?" The facade was cracking. Felicia's sister mentioned Tiffany was between situations again. 3 months before Jordan's high school graduation, the letter from Georgetown arrived. Full scholarship, complete ride, everything covered. I need to read you something, Jordan said, holding his application essay. We sat at our tiny table, the one Mr. Carter had fixed 3 times, and Jordan read. At 7, I was dying, not from disease, but from the people who were supposed to love me most. My father and aunt poisoned me slowly, keeping me sick enough to profit from sympathy. While my mother worked 3 jobs to pay for treatments I never needed, she did not know. She trusted family. When they abandoned us, leaving me to actually die from their toxins, my mother saved me with nothing but minimum wage and maximum effort. She scrubbed toilets while I did homework in janitor closets. She gave up sleep, food, any chance at her own life to give me mine. I study medicine not despite this trauma, but because of it. Somewhere another child is being hurt by people they trust. I will find them. I will save them because my mother taught me that love is showing up when showing up is all you have left to give. We cried until Mrs. Carter knocked on our door, worried we were hurt. Then she cried too, and Mr. Carter had to come collect her. But not before she made us promise to frame that essay. You did it, baby, I told Jordan that night. We did it, he corrected. And we are not done yet. He looked at the file of evidence I had been building, now 3 boxes full. When? He asked. When you are safe. When you are at Georgetown. When the truth cannot touch your future. He nodded, understanding. We had waited this long. We could wait a little longer. The patience lasted exactly 1 week. Then Linda Reed called. You do not know me, she said, voice tight with barely controlled fury. But Calvin Brennan destroyed my husband's business, and I think you are the only person who might understand why I need him to burn. I stood in our kitchen, Jordan at his desk studying for finals, and listened to a stranger explain how my ex-husband had perfected his con artist routine. Thomas was Calvin's partner for 3 years, Linda continued. Calvin used your son's death, fake death, to win sympathy contracts. When Thomas questioned where the charity money went, Calvin bought him out for pennies, then stole his client list. We lost everything. I have recordings, Denise. Calvin bragging about the tax breaks, about how genius Tiffany was for thinking of it. I have proof he has been skimming from his own company. But nobody believes the bitter ex-partner's wife. They might believe the mother of the dead child who is not dead. Jordan looked up from his textbook, sensing the shift in my voice. I nodded at him. It was time. What kind of recordings? I asked. Calvin, drunk at a bar, telling his new partner how they pulled it off. Tiffany's voice is on one of them, too, laughing about how you actually believed the diagnosis. Thomas recorded everything after Calvin forced him out. He knew we would need evidence. We met at a diner 2 towns over. Linda slid a drive across the table like we were spies. She looked exhausted, rage keeping her animated. He destroyed 4 other businesses the same way, she said. Always using Jordan's story. The grieving father act. One contractor took his own life after Calvin stole his contracts. Why have you not gone to the police? With what? Hearsay business disputes. You have the medical proof. I have the financial proof. Together. That night, Jordan listened to the recordings on headphones, his face hardening with each word. Calvin's slurred voice talking about selling tragedy. Tiffany laughing about the perfect prescription cocktail she had researched. I want to tell our story, Jordan said, pulling off the headphones. Not theirs. Ours. He started a blog that weekend, Living After Death, a survivor's story. He was 18, heading to Georgetown in the fall, old enough to speak his truth. The first post was simple. I died when I was 10. At least that is what my father told everyone. He held a memorial service, started a charity in my name, built a business on my grave. The only problem? I was alive, living above a small cafe with my mother, recovering from systematic poisoning by the people who were supposed to love me most. He did not name names, but the details were specific enough. The charity called Jordan's Wings, the construction company that won humanitarian awards, the aunt who became a stepmother, the vitamins that were not vitamins. 3 days later, local reporters called, then a newspaper. The story of the boy declared dead while still breathing was irresistible. Jordan turned almost all of them down except for one, a carefully produced podcast about medical abuse that promised to let him tell the story his way. The episode dropped on a Tuesday. By Wednesday, it had 1 million downloads. Dr. Hawkins moved faster than the internet. She had been building her own case for years, and Jordan's blog gave her the opening she needed. She forwarded everything to the Medical Ethics Board, the state licensing department, Child Protective Services. "I am not letting them practice their evil anywhere else," she told me. "That fake physician Tiffany hired? I found him. Real name is Maurice Webb. He lost his license in Indiana for insurance fraud. Tiffany paid him $2,000 to play doctor for an afternoon. The investigation opened quietly. Forms filed, questions asked, documents requested. Calvin and Tiffany did not know yet, but their perfect world was crumbling from the inside. Then Tiffany tried to reach out through an old family friend. Patricia, my mother's closest friend before she died, called me on a Thursday evening. "Denise, I need to tell you something strange." "What happened?" "Tiffany contacted me through social media. Said she has been trying to reach you. Needs to make amends. She claims Calvin forced her into everything. That she never wanted to hurt Jordan." "What did you tell her?" "That you died. Heart attack from the stress 2 years ago." Patricia's voice turned cold. She asked about life insurance. Whether Jordan got anything. "That woman has not changed a bit." Jordan heard the whole conversation. "She thinks you are dead," he said, smiling dark and satisfied. "Good. Let her think she won. It makes the truth hurt more." The cracks spread faster now. Felicia forwarded me screenshots of Tiffany's increasingly frantic posts. Wine bottles multiplied in photos. Calvin was absent from everything recent. The twins looked neglected, hair unwashed, clothes too small. Comments from concerned friends asked if she needed help. Someone leaked Jordan's blog to the charity's board. Suddenly, Jordan's Wings was under review, donors demanding answers, the Internal Revenue Service sniffing around their tax-exempt status. Linda called weekly with updates. Calvin's new partner started asking questions about the books. Clients pulled contracts. The humanitarian award they had won was being reconsidered. "He is drinking heavily," Linda reported. "Thomas saw him at 3 different bars last week, day drinking alone." But the real crack, the one that would shatter everything, came from an unexpected source. One of Tiffany's twins, only 4 years old, had been admitted to the hospital with suspicious symptoms: bruising, fatigue, a familiar pattern. Dr. Hawkins called me immediately. "She is doing it again. Different hospital, same playbook. Those poor boys. Not for long." The ethics board was already investigating. This accelerated everything. "They are removing the twins tomorrow." I sat with that information, feeling the weight of 2 innocent boys caught in Tiffany's web. History trying to repeat itself, but this time people were watching. This time there were files and recordings and a survivor named Jordan who refused to stay buried. "Mom," Jordan said that night, looking at his Georgetown acceptance letter. "When I am safely at school, we release everything." "Right, everything." "Good, because I just got an email from a journalism major who wants to write her thesis on our story. He found the memorial page, the charity records, my blog. He is connecting all the dots." The truth was spreading like wildfire, and Calvin and Tiffany did not even smell the smoke yet. I was thinking about the reporter's questions when I walked into a Kroger at 7 o'clock in the evening with my last $20 and a handful of expired coupons. 15 years of shopping at the same store, always at the same time, after my evening cleaning shift before the night one. I knew which cashiers would pretend not to notice expired coupons, which aisles had the best markdowns, how to make $20 feed us for 3 days. I was comparing dented cans of soup when I heard it, the laugh. Tiffany's laugh, tinkling and false, the same laugh that used to fill my kitchen while she poisoned my son. My body recognized them before my brain did. Every muscle tensed, fight or flight flooding my system. There by the organic produce stood Calvin and Tiffany. Time had changed them, but not enough. Calvin had gained weight, success weight, his polo shirt straining across a belly built by business lunches. Tiffany looked preserved, Botox smooth forehead, highlighted hair, designer handbag that could pay our rent for 2 months. They were loading their cart with wine bottles, laughing about something on Calvin's phone, living their perfect lie while I stood there in my clearance rack jacket holding soup I could not really afford. I should have walked away. Should have gone to self-checkout and disappeared. But 15 years of silence suddenly felt heavier than my fear. Still scrubbing floors, Denise. Tiffany had spotted me first, her voice cutting through the distance between us like she had been waiting for this moment. She looked me up and down, taking in my discount store uniform. The exhaustion I wore like a second skin. The way my hands were still cracked from bleach despite all the lotion Mrs. Carter gave me. We heard Jordan died years ago, she continued, examining tomatoes with theatrical interest. Such a tragedy. Calvin turned then, his face moving through several expressions before settling on smugness. Well, still in town. Still alive, I said, walking closer. Disappointing, I am sure, since you held my funeral. Tiffany's laugh was nervous but still condescending. You heard about that. It was closure, Denise. Jordan's funeral, I corrected. You buried my living son for sympathy points. Calvin shifted his weight, trying to look casual. How are you managing? Must be hard alone. I manage. Floors do not scrub themselves. Tiffany's eyes gleamed with cruel satisfaction. Still cleaning after all these years. I told Calvin you would never amount to anything without us. Some of us work, I said, instead of stealing. Calvin laughed, the confident sound of a man who had never faced consequences. Stealing? We took what we deserved. A life. A real life. Not whatever tragedy you were dragging us into with that dying kid. He leaned against their cart full of $60 wine. Speaking of which, did the boy ever actually die? Or are you still milking that story? The store seemed to pause. The music kept playing, but everyone nearby stopped moving. A mother with 2 children pretended to study pasta labels. An elderly man froze mid-reach for bananas. The teenage cashier at Register 3 was holding her breath. You want to know about Jordan? I asked softly. Tiffany rolled her eyes, adjusting her designer purse. Denise, please. We have moved on. We have real children now. Healthy children. That was when the automatic doors opened. Jordan walked through like consequence had taken human form. 6'3" now, built strong from years of making up for lost growth, his Georgetown medical sweatshirt worn like armor. Every step confident, measured, purposeful. He saw me first, our eyes meeting across the produce section. Then he noticed them. The tomato Tiffany was holding slipped from her hand, hitting the floor with a wet sound that seemed to echo. Calvin's mouth opened, but nothing came out. They stared at Jordan like he was a ghost they had personally buried, which in a way he was. Mom, Jordan said, walking over with deliberate calm. You okay? Tiffany's designer purse hit the floor. Calvin grabbed the cart for support, his knuckles white against the handle. Hello, Aunt Tiffany, Jordan said evenly. Dad. You are alive? Calvin's voice cracked like a teenager's. Disappointed. Jordan asked. I know you told everyone I died. You even had a service. Mom showed me the program, beloved son taken too soon. Strange thing to print about someone you abandoned while he was supposedly dying. Tiffany was backing away slowly, her hand reaching for Calvin's arm. This is not possible. You were sick. Terminal. No, Jordan said, his voice never rising but somehow filling the entire store. I was poisoned by you. Dr. Hawkins figured it out. The vitamins you insisted on. The special meals. You kept me sick for sympathy, for money, for the attention it brought you. Other shoppers had given up pretending not to watch. A circle formed, loose but definite. The teenage cashier had her phone out, recording everything. You tortured a child for attention, Jordan continued, each word precise as a scalpel. You dosed me with heavy metals to fake leukemia. You raised money from generous people and pocketed it. You held a memorial service for a living child to win construction contracts. Calvin tried to puff up, some remnant of his old bluster surfacing. Now wait a minute. No, Jordan interrupted. You wait. You ran off with your wife's sister. You left us with nothing. Mom scrubbed toilets while you built your empire on our suffering. She never missed a treatment I did not need, never missed a school play, never let me forget I was loved despite what. You did. Tiffany was crying now, but it looked rehearsed, as if she had practiced in mirrors. Jordan, we were young. You were adults, he said. Adults who chose cruelty and called it love. Adults who are now standing in a Kroger, facing the son you buried alive. The store manager appeared, watching from the bakery section. 2 more employees stood by customer service. Nobody intervened. This was better than anything on their security cameras. We should go, Calvin muttered, trying to push their cart away. You declared me dead for convenience, Jordan said, not moving. Built a charity on my grave. One contracts with my suffering. But here is the thing. Mom gave me the antidote to your poison. It is called love, and it is something you will never understand. Tiffany's tears had ruined her makeup, black streams down her preserved face. We made mistakes. No, mistakes are accidents. What you did was attempted murder. The words hung in the air like a verdict. Calvin grabbed Tiffany's arm, pulling her backward, their abandoned cart blocking the aisle. They stumbled toward the exit, but the teenage cashier's voice carried across the store. Oh my goodness, this is already at 50,000 views. Tiffany turned back, mascara-stained face twisted with panic. You are recording this? The whole internet is watching, the girl said, not lowering her phone. You are viral. They fled then, leaving their wine and organic produce behind like evidence at a crime scene. Jordan stood perfectly still until the automatic doors closed behind them. Then his shoulders finally relaxed. You okay, baby? I asked. Better than okay, he said, pulling me into a hug that smelled like his dorm room and instant coffee. I have waited 15 years for that. By the time we got home, Jordan driving because my hands were shaking, his phone was buzzing nonstop. The video had jumped from one platform to another to the evening news. 2 million views by midnight, 5 million by morning. The comments section became a courtroom of public opinion. People who donated to Jordan's wings demanded refunds. Former employees of Brennan Builds shared their own stories. Someone found the memorial page and posted screenshots beside current photos of Jordan at Georgetown. Listen to this one, Jordan read from his phone over breakfast. My company lost a bid to Brennan Builds because of his sob story about his dead son. We were a veteran-owned business, but apparently fake death beats real service. Linda called before noon. Calvin's biggest client just pulled out. $40 million project gone. Thomas is filing charges this afternoon. The dominoes fell fast after that. The Internal Revenue Service opened an investigation into Jordan's wings within a week. The state licensing board suspended the charity's registration. The twins' private school called an emergency meeting with parents after someone, definitely not me, sent them the video with a concerned note about the safety of the boys in Tiffany's care. Calvin's first drunk call came 2 weeks later, 2:47 a.m. I let it go to voicemail. You ruined everything, his slurred voice said. My business, my family, my reputation. Are you happy now? I deleted it without listening to the rest. His suffering was not my concern anymore. It was not even satisfying. It was just nothing. White noise from a life I had left behind. 3 months later, Calvin filed for bankruptcy from a Super 8 motel. Linda sent me the filing papers with a sticky note. He listed the memorial flowers for Jordan as a business expense. Tiffany tried reinventing herself online. New name, new account, posting about rising from trauma and starting fresh after toxic relationships. But the internet has a long memory. Every post got flooded with screenshots of Jordan's memorial page, links to his blog, that grocery store video playing on repeat. The investigation into the twins revealed what we feared. The same pattern starting again. Mysterious symptoms, special vitamins, Tiffany's tears perfectly timed for maximum sympathy. The boys were placed with Calvin's mother, who had suspected something was wrong, but had been too afraid to speak up. At least they are safe, Jordan said when we heard. They have a chance now. Spring arrived with acceptance letters and new beginnings. Jordan got into Johns Hopkins for his pediatric oncology fellowship. Full scholarship again. His essay about identifying medical child abuse in pediatric settings caught the attention of the selection committee. His Georgetown graduation was everything the grocery store confrontation was not: planned, peaceful, perfect. I sat in the auditorium wearing a dress Mrs. Carter had altered for me, surrounded by the family we had built from scratch. The Carters, Dr. Hawkins, Felicia, even Mr. Dupree had come, grumbling about parking but wiping his eyes when Jordan walked across the stage. In his valedictorian speech, Jordan stood at that podium where Tiffany had once performed her fake grief and spoke truth instead. 15 years ago, I was dying, not from disease, but from the people who were supposed to protect me. I stand here today because one woman refused to let me disappear. She worked 3 jobs, sacrificed every comfort, and gave up every dream of her own to save mine. My mother, Denise, taught me that family is not about blood or marriage certificates. It is about who shows up when life falls apart. It is about who stays when leaving would be easier. Mom, this degree is as much yours as mine. The applause was thunderous, but all I could hear was my heart finally beating without fear. The celebration afterward was in our apartment above the Carter's Cafe. Mrs. Carter made enough food for 30 people, though we were only 12. Tiana, now a teacher herself, brought her children, who called Jordan Uncle Doctor. Dr. Hawkins gave him a stethoscope that had been her father's. Mr. Dupree handed him an envelope with a check that made Jordan's eyes go wide. "For your mother," the old man said gruffly. "Back pay for all that cleaning. With interest." We sat around our small table, the one held together with glue and prayers, laughing at stories that were no longer sad. The walls that had heard so much crying now echoed with joy. Jordan's phone buzzed with a news alert. Tiffany had been arrested for fraud. Calvin was living in his truck. The twins were thriving with their grandmother. None of it mattered anymore. "You know what I realized?" Jordan said, raising his glass of Tiana's homemade juice. "We won." "When?" I asked. "The moment we survived everything else. The video, their collapse, the investigations, that is just the credits rolling. We won the day we chose each other instead of giving up." Mrs. Carter nodded. "Best revenge is a good life." "To a good life," Jordan toasted. "To family," I added, looking around the table at the people who had saved us when blood relations had tried to bury us. Later, after everyone left, Jordan and I stood on our small balcony overlooking the city. Somewhere out there, Calvin and Tiffany were living with their consequences. But here, in this modest apartment that smelled like coffee and love, we had everything. "Thank you," Jordan said quietly, "for not giving up." "Thank you," I replied, "for being worth fighting for." We stood in comfortable silence, two survivors watching the city lights, knowing that tomorrow Jordan would leave for Johns Hopkins, and I would finally sleep without worry, and the ghosts they had created would stay buried where they belonged. This was not the life I planned. It was better. It was real. It was ours. If you enjoyed this story, please like, comment, and share this video with your friends. Subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a powerful story drop.